All right, we are about to be done with chapter 3. This is the very last section in chapter 3 that we're going to be discussing. Section 3.7, and actually what we're going to be doing is talking about inequalities in two variables. So pretty much up to this point we've been looking at lines, we've been looking at a lot of the characteristics and attributes of lines, been looking at their slope, how to find lines when you're given the y-intercept and slope, how to find lines if you're given the y-intercept and a point, how to tell if lines are parallel or perpendicular. And so the next step would just be looking at inequalities, and then we'll pretty much be, we'll have all the knowledge we need about lines, which is great, linear functions. All right, so I'm not going to spend terribly too much time on these notes, and part of the reason why is I want to show you how to go about inputting a lot of this stuff into WebAssign, how you can really use that to your advantage when you're working on these homework problems, because it can be really helpful. Again, have a nice handy notepad next to you to work through some of these problems. So again, inequalities look like this. Y greater than mx plus b, ax plus by is greater than c. So we're swapping out all of the equal signs with inequality signs. It can be any of these. Okay, it doesn't have to be just the greater than. It can be greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. It really doesn't matter. So the solution set, this is the important part. The solution set of a linear inequality is it's called a half plane. So you're probably wondering, what the heck is a half plane? When you look at a coordinate axis, so you look at an xy axis like we normally do when we plot points, or plot lines I should say, what you're essentially doing is you're taking the xy plane, which is where everything is that you're graphing, and you're splitting it. Some of it lies on one side of the line, and other parts of it lie on the other side of the line. So the half plane is saying that you have to select either half that's above or half that's below. And again, it sounds kind of complicated, and I'll explain it to you as we go through some of these notes. Okay? There's tons of examples on page 176 and 177. Very, very, very strongly encourage you to go through and take a look there. Putting graphs like that in my notes is kind of a pain. So you have the textbook accessible to you. Truthfully, just go in there and take a look at what I mean by half plane and shading and all that kinds of stuff, because it explains it really well. The tactical advice. Okay, this will again make sense here in just a few minutes. We're going to use the point 0, 0 to our advantage. So for example, this question is going to ask us to graph the solution set of y less than or equal to 3 halves. There should be an x right there, so I'll have to change my notes. The one you see online will have the x listed. 3 halves x plus 3. So what we need to do is, first, let's find the intercepts. For the x-intercept, we set y equal to 0. So that means that we solve this guy. When you move things around and then you go about, again, moving things to certain sides. So, okay, right here. I want to point something out here with multiplication. You might be wondering, how in the heck can I get the x by itself? There's a trick, and it's called the multiplicative inverse. Okay? When you take a number and you multiply it by its multiplicative inverse, it equals 1. So in other words, the multiplicative inverse of this particular number, the inverse it's kind of like what we did the last time. So you know how we did negative reciprocals with perpendicular numbers? The inverse of a fraction is just the reciprocal, not the negative. You don't have to worry about that. So the negative comes along for the ride, and I invert it. I go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to multiply on both sides. What I do to one side, I must do to another side. So in other words, I'm multiplying both sides by a minus 2/3. Remember, I can do any operation I want as long as I do it to both sides of the equation. I can do multiplication, I can do division, I can do adding and subtracting. It does not matter, but I have to do it to both sides of an equation. So the trick here, though, is because this is a multiplicative inverse of 3/2, these are all going to cancel out with each other. The 3 here is going to cancel with this 3 here. The 2 here is going to cancel with that 2. The minus signs are going to cancel and become a positive, so I'm going to be left with just x. That's exactly what I want. Now over on this side, I'm going to have 3 times 2 is going to be 6. So minus 6 over 3 is going to be a minus 2. All right, so what am I doing? I kind of went on a little rabbit trail there to explain the multiplicative inverse and everything. The whole goal, remember, was just to find what the x-intercept is. So when I set the y value equal to 0 and I get an x value as a result, I get an x-intercept of minus 2, 0. X equals minus 2, y is equal to 0. This is the point where the x-intercept occurs. Now we do the same thing for the y-intercept. The y-intercept says that I need to set x equal to 0. So I start with my original equation, and I just substitute in x equals 0 right here, which this is actually the way easier one than doing this one up here. You'll probably notice it's kind of obvious, but 3/2 times 0 is just 0, and I'm left with a 3. So y is equal to 3. So again, when x is equal to 0, y is equal to 3, so I get my y-intercept is going to be this guy. When you graph it, you're going to get something that looks like this. Remember, I'm not doing anything with an inequality yet. I just want to get the line. Okay? When we get to the inequality part, we have to either choose above this line, so you can see where my mouse is. I'm pretending I'm shading it in, right? Above the line here, or below the line. It can be either of these entire areas. So that can be in our solution set. So we have to figure out which it is. So remember, the line, we have to find what this is to draw the line. And then when we deal with the inequality, we're trying to figure out which half of the plane we have to shade in. Is it this half above the line, or is it this half below the line? I pretty much write out exactly what I just said right there. The suggestion that I'm going to give you is to use the point 0, 0. And the reason why is because when you set x and y equal to 0, when you're determining whether or not an inequality is true, it usually makes it really easy. Okay? Just take a look at what I'm referring to here. Y less than or equal to 3/2 x plus 3. I've got 0 less than or equal to 3/2. Again, I'm substituting the point 0, 0 in, which means my x value here is 0, and my y value here is 0. So now I get this. 0 is less than or equal to 3. When you get down to this point where you have a number on one side of the inequality sign and then a number on the other side of the inequality sign, what you're doing is you're just determining, is the statement true? Is 0 less than or equal to 3? And in this case, it is true. So 0, 0 is included in the solution set. So everything below the line gets shaded in. Because, again, look, do you see 0, 0 sits right here? I don't actually have it listed. It's right where my cursor is. You can kind of see it. So 0, 0 sits right there. That's the area that we shade in. If this statement turned out to be false, then what we would do is we would shade in the opposite side. Okay? I'm going to go through a few examples in WebAssign. I just want to show you, again, how to go through this, how to graph it, how to do some of these things. So bear that in mind. Let me pull up my browser here. And I'm actually going to use my whiteboard as well just to write down some important things as we're going through and running some test scenarios. But yes, so I'm not going to solve this for you. So I'll tell you how to do this one. Is 0, 0 a solution of y greater than or equal to this? So what you do in this instance is you take your x value, you substitute it in here, you take your y value, you substitute it in here, and what you get is 0, I'll just do it, why not? 0 is greater than or equal to 0 minus 9. Is 0 greater than or equal to minus 9? Well, yeah, 0 is definitely bigger than minus 9. So the answer would be yes. So that would be how you go about solving that problem. Now again, I kind of did that fast. What I would hope you do is write down on your notepad, whatever you have, your piece of paper, work it out, actually show it. I kind of just dictated it, walked right through that. How do we do one of these? So let me do this one because the numbers are a little different. I don't want to just give it to you, okay? Graph the solution set. So we've got y less than 3/4 x minus 5. Now, one thing you can do is you can do what I did in the notes and you can find the x and y intercept. I'm actually going to do it a little differently. I'm going to do it the easier way, the look at the graph and figure it out way. So, all right, let's take a look. So if I was looking at this and I wanted to graph it, this is in slope-intercept form. So the y-intercept is going to happen at minus 5, which is down here. Okay? So the y-intercept happens at minus 5. And then remember, the slope, this goes back a couple sections, the slope is the rise over the run. So the y value is increasing by 3 for every 4 x values. So what I'll do is, and it's positive, so that's important, I'm going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and then over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom. There's my line. Okay? You don't actually have to do the intercept. You can do it if you want, but it's something that's in this form is really nice when it comes to graphing, especially with this tool. If you were doing it by hand, then you'd probably have to do the intercept, or you'd have to plot points and use a ruler. Another thing you could do, so let me go ahead and well, no, that's fine. We'll just leave it. No, let me show you. I might as well. I got as much time as I need, so these YouTube videos make it convenient. All right, so the starting point was, let's see, I got to be on my line, minus 5, okay? And then if I wanted to go, again, minus 3, minus 4, so I could go 1, 2, 3 right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, boom. So that's going to be the exact same line as I just drew. It's just I'm going in the opposite direction with my values. Let's just stick with the one I originally did. That way you can just see it. I guess you got to click on it like every time. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, boom. There it is. Okay, so here's my line. Ignore this stuff. I know it says line 1, line 2, line 3. As long as you have one line and the 2 points that they illustrate, it's fine. So here is the thing. If our solution set sat right on top of this line, it would be solid. But because there's no equal sign in this greater than, so you see how it's just, or sorry, this is less than. Because this is just less than and not equal to, we cannot include any of the points that sit on this line in our solution set. So I'm going to hit dash. Okay? Too long, didn't read. Here's the brief shortcut. If you see less than or greater than, it's dash. If it's less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, not dashed. That's my quick 10-second spiel on that. Okay, so it's dashed because it's less than. There's no equal sign. Okay, so now I need to figure out whether or not I shade above this line or below this line. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to switch to my whiteboard and I'm going to write down the equation. First, let me write this down, so then I'll switch to it. Give me just a second. Y less than 3/4. Whoop. I can't write. All right. Here, I'll just switch. And wouldn't you know it, my camera shut off. How about that? You probably never saw that coming. Okay. Let's go. Board. Boom. Okay. Here's my board. Y less than. I can't see the. There we go. 3/4. That's a 4. X minus 5. Okay. So again, use the point. Use the point 0, 0. Okay. That's a weird U. Use the point 0, 0. So again, I'm testing whether or not this inequality will be true at the point 0, 0. So to do that, let's go ahead and make the substitution. This is, remember, my x value and my y value. I'm making the substitution, so 0, which is my y, is less than 3/4 times 0 minus 5. So that goes away because it's 0, and I get 0 less than -5. Okay. Question: is this true? The answer: it is not. False. It is completely false. The reason why is 0 is bigger than a negative number. Okay? So when you get something like this, let's go back. I'm going to pull my keyboard up here so you can see. Let's go back here. So notice 0, 0 sits right there. Okay? Since it was false, that means that I'm going to not include 0, 0 in my solution set. So you take this guy right here, which is fill, and this will say, hey, make sure you add it last. Everything is going to get changed in the graph, so on and so forth. Okay. Once I have my line in, and once I have it dashed, I'm going to fill in the area that does not include 0, 0. If it was true, I would do this side. If it was, since it's false, I'm going to do this side. So that right there is my solution set. Okay. I'm going to hit submit. And please give me a green check mark. Hooray, there it is. Okay, so you can kind of see how that works right there. Yeah, pretty much that's it. You're going to do the same thing over on this side, on this question. This one's just multiple choice. The process is pretty much the same. I think I only had wow, I made this homework assignment really easy for you guys. Only 4 questions. Well, how about that? I'm not going to do this one for you. I'm going to leave this one for you to do. But yeah, this is how you pretty much do the inequalities. So that is what I will leave you with. This is actually a pretty short video. It's pretty much just the same thing that we've been doing. Graphing lines, making sure that you're putting them on the online system, and the only additional step that we're doing is we're just checking the point 0, 0 and making sure whatever statement we get is either true or false. So remember, if it was true, I would shade in this area. If it was, since it's false, I'm going to shade in the opposite. Okay? That is pretty much it. I have this fruit fly that is flying around my office, and it is, I'm surprised you guys have not seen it yet, but yeah, that's it. Have a fantastic day, and yeah, enjoy yourself.